Welcome to today's webinar on severe weather. My name is Ryan Bast of the Motor Safety Association, and this webinar is intended to provide information on severe weather. All of the attendants' microphones have been muted, and they will remain muted throughout the webinar. If you do have questions, please type them into the question box, and they will be answered at the conclusion of the webinar. Some of the items that will be reviewed today include what is severe weather. We'll discuss various types of severe weather drills and the use of technology through severe weather apps and websites available. I'll leave you with some severe weather driving tips and highlight many different types of severe weather systems and provide you with some resources on how to be prepared, and including templates and resource manuals before we review and conclude. This webinar is meant to create awareness to severe weather and offer direction on how to prepare. Organizations still need to develop a policy on how to deal with severe weather at their workplace and in the environments that they work within. So what exactly is severe weather? This refers to any dangerous meteorological phenomena with the potential to cause damage, serious social disruption, or loss of human life. And types of severe weather vary depending on your geographical location, will dictate what type of severe weather you could be exposed to. And one system that I was exposed to when I was a kid, this happened July 8th, 1989, 30 years ago, on the farm that I grew up. And I remember the day of the tornado, I was out with my dad and we were fixing fence, and the system really seemed to be moving in quickly. So we came back to the yard and the clouds started to divide, and then we ended up going to the basement. And my dad was able to get a few pictures of the tornado, and this was a big one. You could see at the top of it as well as at the base, where sometimes you see smaller twister type of tornadoes, but this one had a really big base to it. And many farms were destroyed. People lost their homes, their buildings, their animals. The machinery was packed in with mud. There were grain trucks sitting in the field with no tracks to them on how they got there. They're just basically picked up and set in the field. But one thing that really sticks out was the howling noise of when that tornado was at its closest point, and then the eerie silence after it passed. However, based on my experiences, I'm now very cautious about changing weather systems, especially with seeing the results of the impact of a tornado and what can happen in its aftermath. So how about severe weather drills and documenting those drills with the date, the time that it occurred, and which staff members were involved, as well as the signatures? And I think businesses do a pretty good job of conducting fire drills, but why not look at conducting a severe weather drill? And you can utilize local volunteers or businesses such as EMS, first responders, and other groups that could benefit from this type of training scenario. For example, over the intercom system, you could announce, we have an approaching tornado. What do we do? Or we're going to have a drill now for what happens in the event of a blizzard. And expanding your drills to include various types of severe weather systems will be quite beneficial. Now let's look at the technology piece. There are many different websites and radar apps available. And this one here is called the Storm Radar app. And this one works quite great. It informs you of severe weather using 8-hour past to future radar, live wind speed, as well as tornado updates. It has a rain and flood tracker and local temperatures, uses Doppler radar technology, and a GPS map in real time. So a great app available. One that I use is the Weather Network app, and this can follow your GPS location and warn you of changing weather. So if I'm driving from Regina to Saskatoon, and the closer I get to Saskatoon, I may be getting different weather alerts because it's picking up my GPS location and if there was a different weather system in that area. I also like you can set in different locations. So say for example, if you maybe have a farm or a beach or the cabin, any of those places that you go to, you could set those locations into the app and it advises you of those weather extremes and changes in those areas. And you can save the different preset locations and utilize those when you are looking at the different type of information, and it'll give you that notice in advance. So for example, in 24 hours expect snow. So that's a good option as well. And it's been fairly accurate to the times that it's notified me of snow coming in 24 hours in recent times. The province of Saskatchewan also has an app, and on the highway outline map, it shows the various highway conditions. Black being good dry pavement, yellow, caution, winter driving conditions exist, and white, travel not recommended, as well as you may see red occasionally where they actually close the gates and close the highway down and basically shut the roadways down. And in Saskatchewan, we have another season called the construction season, and you may see orange zones or orange markings on the map as well, with pylons indicating those highways are being repaired. Another good feature of this app is it has 14 cameras situated across the province in key strategic locations. So you can go into the app or online and look at those different types of conditions with a 1 minute delay from real time. So this is very handy in allowing you to see what's going on in different areas of the province. In the next few slides, I'll provide general driving tips for severe weather situations. And I encourage you to stick to the speed limit and not to exceed it. And keep in mind, the speed limit is a guideline only. So if the speed limit's 100 kilometers per hour, it doesn't mean that you have to drive 100 kilometers per hour. That's the speed that you would drive when conditions are favorable to operate at that speed. If it's not safe to operate at that speed, you would need to slow down. And that's going to be a general theme as we look at some of the different severe weather types. Also ensuring your vehicle tire depth of the tread, tire pressure, fluid levels, and maintenance are all up to the specifications of the automobile manufacturer are important to ensure that your vehicle is in safe operating condition. Be sure to have an emergency kit readily available in your vehicle. And towards the end of the webinar, I'll provide you with a link of the items that you can use to build your own emergency kit and have available. A tip that sometimes people overlook is they don't turn their headlights on because they have daytime running lights. And when they do this, when they lack to turn their lights on, their tail lights are not on. So it's hard to see vehicles from behind if they don't have a tail light on. So ensure that you turn your headlights on so others can then see your tail lights when they're out on the roadways as well. And we do see some temperature swings, especially around that freezing mark. If it's slightly above freezing or slightly below freezing, when those temperatures can change quickly, or if you're bringing your vehicle in and out of a heated parkade or a garage, your windows will fog up quickly. So you need to know how to operate the air and ventilation controls to be able to defrost or defog your windows. And tune into the radio quietly to listen for weather updates. For our members, on our website, we provide a free Driving Defensively online theory-based course. So I encourage you to register for that course on our website and take advantage of that online training on driving defensively, which will be helpful, especially as we look at these continuously different conditions, such as snow or icy roads. Be sure to allow extra travel time. If it takes you 1 hour to get to your destination, I encourage you to allow an extra 10 to 15 minutes in snow and icy road conditions so that you do not have to rush to get there. Be aware of black ice. With black ice, it's nearly impossible to see. You may be able to spot it perhaps if your headlights reflect off of it at night, or it tends to form on bridges that can trap in the cold, or in the shadows of tall buildings. So be aware of that. It can pop up and you can be going on dry pavement and all of a sudden hit a patch of black ice and lose control. So drive at a good speed, avoid tailgating or following people too closely, or pushing on your brakes when you're turning. So when you're going around a corner, you can feather the gas pedal slightly, but if you hold the brakes down, your wheels could lock up and your vehicle could turn into a toboggan and take off sliding. So take your foot off the brake, and as you turn, give a little bit of gas, accelerating by feathering the pedal to get through the intersections when you are turning. In those foggy conditions, be sure that you always have your headlights on, but never use your brights. As fog consists of tiny water droplets that spread and reflect light, so the higher your lights are, the more of that reflection you're going to get. So use your low beams as your first choice, and if you have fog lights, turn those on. Fog lights are yellow, and they do cut through the fog better than what a white lamp would, and they are lower to the ground so you can see better. You can also use your blinking four-way flashers, and this helps motorists see you and possibly avoid a collision. And again, as I was mentioning, slow down and drive to the normal speeds that are safe in those conditions, which are going to generally be less than the posted speed limit. In severe weather types for driving in heavy rain, slow down because your vehicle otherwise can hydroplane, slowly lifting off the ground, and you will then be driving on a very thin layer of water. If that happens, don't panic. Just slow down until the car feels normal again. Always watch for flooded areas. Say, for example, underpasses, water will pool up and build up in those areas, and it's very dangerous and hard to determine what the depth of that water actually is. So you need to avoid those underpass types of areas that are flooded, as your vehicle will stop. I've often seen on the news vehicles stuck in the underpass with people sitting on their roofs waiting for help to arrive. And of course, when it's really wet, you're going to have to be aware of reduced braking distances. If you do have vehicle trouble, pull to a safe area off the road that you can get to in a safe area. Turn on your hazard lights and stay with your vehicle. Do not wander off and separate yourself from the vehicle. Stay there until help arrives. If you are just stuck on a bit of ice and need some traction, in situations people have used their floor mats or a bit of sand to get out of a situation where they're stuck. On the slide, there are orange traction bars, and I carry a set of these in my vehicle, and they've helped me get out of a pinch before, as well as I've lent them to a few other people, which can be beneficial if you're caught in those types of situations. And if you do get stuck in a lot of snow and your car's buried in the snow, make sure your exhaust pipe is exposed. If the pipe is blocked by snow, it can send dangerous carbon monoxide into your car. I'll now talk about the different severe weather types, starting with the tornado, which I did highlight earlier in the introduction slides. And a tornado is a type of very extreme severe weather, as they are vertical funnels of rapidly spinning air. And tornado systems can include clouds, strong wind, rain, and sometimes hail. They generally don't move very quickly, only about 16 to 32 kilometers per hour. However, within the eye of the tornado, they can travel up to 400 kilometers per hour. So it can suck up things pretty quickly and blow them around. Uh, if you are around a tornado and there's tornadoes approaching, seek a basement. Some places have designated tornado shelters in their workplace that are safe. But again, just to be aware of what to do if a tornado were to arise. The next severe weather type is flooding, which can occur from spring runoffs, rivers flooding, urban flooding, or flash floods. And flood is defined as any high flow, overflow, or inundation by water that causes or threatens damage. And these could be either weather or human related. So, for example, real heavy or prolonged precipitation can lead to flooding. Or if we had a lot of snow and a really quick melt with really warm temperatures, that snow's going to melt very quickly, and we could look at some flooding coming from that. Or there's the human factors component, such as dams and levees to bank up water, or altered drainage and land alterations, where sometimes farmers may have trenched or put ditches in their land to divert water to other areas, which can cause flooding into somebody else's farm perhaps, or to another area that normally would not have been in that area where the water is flowing to. And even the more pavement that we have, it collects more water into our storm drainage systems, and therefore can also increase flooding in basements or those low-lying areas where the pavement is tapering towards. Lightning is another type of system which I'm sure most of you have seen at one time or another. This is often present during thunderstorms, which can come with rain, quick swirling clouds, thunder, and wind. Can all accompany the thunderstorm with the lightning. And each lightning bolt can contain up to 1 billion volts of electricity. So be sure to take cover inside, away from windows, in the event of a lightning storm. There's also hurricanes, and these are uncommon in the prairies, but however, if you do travel to coastal areas, they may be more susceptible to hurricanes. And a hurricane is a giant spiraling tropical storm. And they include strong winds of over 250 kilometers per hour. And they're categorized between 1 and 5, and 5 being the most severe type of hurricane. They can also drop a lot of rain, as hurricanes can drop more than 9 trillion liters of rain per day. So that's a huge amount of rain, which causes that flooding. And when you mix it in with the wind, you see people boarding up their windows so they don't shatter from that type of storm. Next severe weather type are dust storms, and these were more common in the prairies in the 30s, where we had a lot of drought, or even the early mid-80s when we had some drought, and different farming practices which included continuous tilling and summer following soils. And when it's dry and the soil is loose, that storm can pick up and blow dust around and can get in your eyes and your mouth. What you can do is basically take cover until the storm passes. And again, these are more common in those drier conditions. And we've since seen these not be as common with the different farming practices, but you may come across it in sandier areas as well. Severe weather type of hail, which is common in the prairies, and I'm sure most of you would have come across hail at one time or another. And they can happen and receive hail either when it is warm or cold. It could be pieces of ice falling from the clouds like rain. And hail does cause a lot of destruction to crops, vehicles. It can smash the windows, dent the body of the vehicle, destroy shingles on properties, and just cause a lot of damage, holes in vinyl siding. It can be very extensive. And it's often categorized by its size, loony-sized hail or golf ball-sized hail. And what it really is, it's these pieces of ice that are falling from the clouds like rain. Hail systems can generally be fairly fast-moving systems, and if they were to arise, you need to seek cover until the hail stops. And when you are seeking cover, stay away from skylights and windows because they can be shattered by hail if they were hit by it. Another severe weather type is rain. And when we look at rain, I talked about being aware of the floodings that can happen, but I'll mention about higher ground. So don't leave your machinery or equipment parked in low-lying areas that are susceptible to flooding, because if so, you could in fact run into situations where you can't access that equipment for quite some time until it dries out. And if your basement happens to be flooded, that water can be contaminated through sewage if it's coming backwards through your toilets into your basement. So not a very good thing to happen. A good practice, again, is to ensure your sump pumps are in good working condition around your foundation to allow for some of those severe rains that we do get occasionally, which are better than freezing rain. And when we look at the potential of freezing rain, as you can see by the picture, the ice builds up on the trees and it bends the branches. It can take out power lines and knock power out for a length of time. So in the event of freezing rain, stay off the road systems and highways. Don't travel unless it's an emergency, because again, you're driving on sheer ice, which eventually can lose control or lose traction and becomes in the ditch when you come into those icy situations. So take extreme caution driving as well as walking. It's hard to walk around when there's a thin layer of ice as well. So you can salt and sand your walkways, and we do have the ministry in the province that does the same to our highways. The next severe weather type is extreme heat. And heat waves are periods of abnormally hot weather lasting for days into weeks. So drink plenty of water and stay cool. If you are working outside, take your break in a shady or cool or air-conditioned area. By trying to limit your time in the sun, you may be able to have some control over your scheduling and avoid those strenuous activities in the hotter parts of the day. So if you can do some of those heavier jobs earlier in the day when it's cooler, and perhaps starting your work shift earlier, if allowable, that will help you work around some of those extreme heat situations. Never leave people or pets in a closed vehicle. When it's extreme heat, the sun comes in through all the windows and your vehicle turns into an oven essentially. And every year we lose kids, pets, and people if their parents left them in the vehicle. And again, very, very tragic thing that can happen. So be sure never to leave your pets or people in vehicles when they're closed in extreme heat. And if you're a supervisor and you're supervising workers, just be sure that you're trained to watch for symptoms of heat exhaustion and heat stroke, and make sure you can keep your workers cool and hydrated. Too much extreme heat can lead to drought. And we've seen drought in the prairies where the soil is cracking, the sun's baking down on us. And in drought situations, we've had high heat temperatures, and that increases the rate of evaporation, and we lose the moisture from the soil. And as that soil dries out, a large portion of heat from the sun heats up the soil. So now our ground is really warm too. And if a spark were to arise or a fire were to start, it would be very dry and that fire would spread quickly. That's why some cities, villages, and rural municipalities have put fire bans into effect and encouraged people to conserve water usage in the event of a drought. Another type of system is extreme cold. And we actually had this last week, and this is quite common in the prairies in those winter months. So be sure to dress warmly in layers and to avoid sweating. Because when you sweat, your clothing becomes wet, and it's hard to stay warm when you're wet. So change out of those wet clothing and stay dry. If you can get your blood circulating, keep moving to maintain your body heat. And also limit your road travel, as vehicles, when it's extremely cold, can ice up. You may see gasoline freezing or your batteries freezing or the different fluids just not working the way they're supposed to in those extreme cold temperatures. And when we see extreme cold, we may also think about the opportunity of what a blizzard could look like. And in the event of a blizzard, it's a dangerous winter storm that's a combination of blowing snow and wind, resulting in very low visibilities, with heavy snowfalls and severe cold, which accompany blizzards. Be sure to never underestimate a blizzard. It includes that heavy snow for long periods of time, so you can get stuck or stranded in a blizzard situation. And many people have lost their lives in blizzards, especially pre-days where we've had cell phone and different cell phone service coverages, where people would perhaps be traveling and never return to their destination. So never underestimate the power of a blizzard. This leads me to our next slides on being prepared. And I encourage you to develop a plan to be prepared at your workplace and at home, and plan for different possible types of emergencies. Keeping your phone charged up. I love those little booster battery packs. They work great in the event of a power outage. You can charge your device. But I don't just rely on that. I have a landline, and as do many other businesses still, in the event that they need to call out and there's a system outage, they can access a landline. And keeping 72 hours of food and water supplies on hand and readily available. And don't forget about your first aid kits to be stocked and readily available with resources in the event that you need them. Utilizing kits in your vehicle and home will assist in your preparation efforts. And even keeping a small amount of cash on hand. When I talked earlier about the tornado, we were without power for over a week. So in those situations, the stores also don't have power. And there's times where you may be able to transact with cash opposed to credit cards. So again, keeping some cash on hand in emergencies is important. And when you do prepare for yourselves, be sure to include your pets if you have them, so that they're prepared for in the event of severe weather systems or emergencies. So as I recap on the being prepared piece, I encourage you to develop a plan for a wide variety of severe weather types and practice that plan through drills. The drill needs to be about more than just fires. So look at all the different potential types of severe weather in your areas and develop plans that can associate with being prepared on how to handle that. Some resources that will be going out to the attendees include a sample inclement weather policy statement, Government of Canada Severe Weather Storm What to Do manual, as well as a severe weather planning manual for schools. A lot of great website links that you can bookmark, Weather Network, Weather Can, Highway Hotline, some great resources that you can utilize either through the app or the website, which I mentioned, including the Storm Radar app. But you can also internet search Edmunds. When you look up Edmunds, how to create a roadside emergency kit, you can pull various lists of what items you could include in a type of emergency roadside kit. So take advantage of that. So as we review and conclude, those samples will go out to the attendees today, as will a webinar certificate template, as well as an opportunity to complete an evaluation survey suggesting future topics. And this webinar will be loaded to our website for future reference. This time, I'd like to thank you for attending today's webinar on severe weather. And if you do have any questions, I encourage you to contact us at the number or the email provided on the screen. Thank you.